Alex Answer here. This is going to be a fast-paced kind of free flow on basic things you can do if you believe that you're a targeted individual or under some form of psychic attack. But I also want to let you know before we begin that it seems like the combination of topics have really hurt my channel. And so it'd be great if you find a way to support the work that I do and the effort putting myself out there to a lot of people that are suffering, sharing basically my speculation and my truth, and it seems that it's reaching a number of different people. So there's another video that I've made regarding a recent mystical or spiritual experience regarding a dream, and it's over at my members only area. For $5.95 per month, you can become a supporter and have access to what's on that channel, and it's a way that you can give back to the type of content that you're benefiting from receiving here on this channel. But I want to talk to you about the basic meditations. Like, do you know that online there's ways you can learn how to defend yourself against psychic attack? So here are some things that you may consider removing. Certain types of entertainment, certain types of binge watching, whether it be YouTube or Netflix, the constant digital stimuli may not be the thing that you need. Now, there is that sense of distracting yourself, and sometimes that can be something that works. If you're being affected by a lot of negative thought forms coming from social media and YouTube, right? To distract yourself with a movie on Netflix that may make you feel better, it could be also compared to how a drug distracts us and covers it up. So there may be certain things that people gravitate to distract themselves from the issues that are plaguing them or attracting those psychic attacks. But those are just covers. You want to look for the things that are attracting it and the things that you need to remove. So certain types of entertainment, I do recommend tuning out from certain types of forces. You know that I've done my fair of criticism of certain people that are out there in the alternative media and thought forms, but there's a reason I don't actually listen to them. Because I don't want to be infected by those spirits that have control of them. But to a certain level, I do study some of them, but I do it when my spirit is strong enough. So your spirit needs to be strong enough to deal with some of the, we'll just say it could be perceived as looking into the realm of the occult by just simply having a conspiratorial worldview and being on the internet. We're dealing with lots of unseen forces. Someone could benefit from knowing that there is a way that some people could come up, bing, on a radar when they seem to know too much, or they're talking about a certain combination of things, but also they could be targeted not because of their truth, but because they're seen as gullible. So they could be falling for a number of lies, and then they could be affected by some other energy that they in fact think is helping them. For example, I think there's a supernatural influence over the actual algorithms of some of these things on YouTube. I think that there's some heavy paranormal influence over the extreme elements of either the left or the right. Anytime where violence is involved, violating free will, propaganda, mind control, or people trying to shame others for sharing their truth, you have some darker forces at play. So on the internet right now, which is not something that our ancestors had to play around with years ago, right? It has some very positive benefits to it being a medium for truths that previously were literally buried. And previously people were killed for speaking of certain truths. And right now it's just kind of like an open Pandora's box. But in that open Pandora's box, you have people, right, that think that they're woke, that are in fact, they're the end result of the targeted individual experiment or society. They're in the false woke. They're in the false light, just like there are false gods and there are false truths, right? And there's counterfeit money and there's counterfeit other things. There are people right now having a counterfeit awakening to the global conspiracy or new world order. Those things exist. Those concepts exist. There are people that think that they're aware of those very things, and yet they could be living out their programming. The New World Order can have the false programming of what Alex Jones tells the people it is, and the Alex Joneses of the world, and then there could be the real programming, the real race war theology. Any person serious about waking up from the TR program should make sure that they're not slaves to the illusions of separation and this type of fight back and forth, and this group's constantly invading you or attacking you. I saw one lady, and I'm not going to say her name, but it was such and such name, Veterans for Truth, very generic. She had kind of like the look in her eyes with her hair up, that just, yeah, she's got the hijack going on. And for some reason, I noticed that YouTube keeps recommending that I watch her channel, and yet I'm not clicking on her videos. It'll once in a while recommend one of my own videos to myself, but barely. It's like, yeah, screw that Alex Answer guy, but this Sally, Veterans for Truth lady with her eyes going way up and her hair up, talking about how this theory leads to this, leads to, this type of a this, and I'm not even going to repeat what she was saying. But it's that hardcore illusions of separation. This group is wholesale being under attack by this group, and kind of omit the real larger picture while acting like you're awake to the truth. They can literally format immigration crises to create decades of persecution of certain individuals or whole groups that are born out of the ashes of the hatred that's fermented online, out of events that literally are manufactured. So there's a lot of people in this society that haven't realized that level of the targeting, and they should, because there's lots of people swept up in this left-right paradigm that literally are shown certain things by the alternative media and the mainstream media, and they're like, literally the tongue falls out, the attention goes, lock and load. It's like artificial intelligence is playing a role in this. If people want to learn about freeing themselves from targeted individualism, they need to understand how the algorithm is not our friend. The algorithm is not your friend. Robotics, and then looking at what YouTube is suggesting you watch. That's great. YouTube may have suggested my video to some people. They're looking for truth about those things, as long as it's not done maliciously. You know what I mean? And that could be done with certain things, while other information is buried. Ultimately, it's good if people are receiving knowledge. But someone could also be bombarded. So there is specific advice that I would give a truth speaker, as opposed to just someone that's looking for the truth about their own situation. When you're anonymous and you're not actually on a radar, there are certain things and privileges that you have, that those of us that have gone public about what we know, we can't go back. Especially if we're not using stage names. We are who we are everywhere. So how do you protect yourself against sabotage? You know what you're up against, and you don't fool around. You don't get super cocky. That's not a road we want to go down. We want to be confident in our skills working, just like it was some sort of a self-defense situation. But we won't want to start doing, like, Muhammad Ali tap dancing and whatnot. So here, we talked about technology. There could be, let's just say, an alcoholic uncle, and I'm not being literal in my life. There's no alcoholic uncle bothering me, but let's just say you have an alcoholic uncle, and he's trolling you on social media, or he's emailing you. And there's things that this alcoholic uncle is saying to you, Lisa, or saying to you, Jack, to try to get a reaction from you. And everything from that alcoholic uncle is literally just to screw with you. It literally has nothing to do with what your value is, how that person can help. It's, how do I guilt trip this person for going to beauty school, or for going to school regarding, learning how to work on a car, and there could be this hypothetical force in your life. And let's say you put them on block and Uncle Alcoholic Guy Joe goes away. Well, you happen to have a big family. I mean, you remember that big reunion? It was like cousins with that actor from the movie Cheers. It was actually not a bad movie. Yeah, I should watch that again. Reminds me of watching movies at my dad's place, which is one of the more interesting arenas of my childhood. And then, learning about things from that perspective. Looking outside, we have the snow melting. Looks very, very gray. So the uncle alcoholic goes away. He's putting you down for being a ballerina, or putting you down for being a... I don't know. You're going to school to learn how to work on wood. Or maybe you're a waiter at a restaurant. You're being insulted for trying to make something of your life and not following in the footsteps of, your Uncle Greg, But then all of a sudden another uncle appears and you go through the same experience, and then you wonder, what about the rest of the family? Are they all kind of like this? And you realize, well, some people aren't necessarily like on board demonizing you because you've chosen to be unique, but they're just going to be silent. They're not necessarily going to say what they really feel, but they feel what they feel. Or maybe they support, but they don't feel that you really are worthy of that level of support, because of the choices that you've made. Ultimately, we're individuals, and what I just described to you, I guess, is the beef of most humans, that they haven't really had the support of the people in their world, their community, of their family. And these are legitimate issues that humans may have regarding various certain situations and circumstances, but the world seems to be ultimately based in challenge and based in certain natural laws that we have to become responsible for our energies and our actions. And so let's bring it back to this, stay focused, and then get back to talking about grounding ourselves in a very chaotic world. It's the individual that chooses, I'm not going to engage with something that's attacking. Okay. Now that other person come around and go, no, you want me to be in your cult. You want me to believe everything you believe. No, I'm just not going to let you attack me. You believe what you believe. You do what you do. I'm cool with that. Say whatever you want on your channel. I don't care. But not engage. And so, as an individual, you could be involved in things like being on public transport, something that I had to take several buses for years from East Portland to the Burlingame Fred Meyer when I worked there for 3 years at that slave job. And that sucked. There was a lot of energies in dealing with that. There's certain ways to not engage with some of the negative things that are going on around you and drug activity. Ways of shielding yourself and ways of not responding to negative energy in your environment with the same, because we could become infected by the collective thought form. And certain urban areas are exactly that. That's why I kind of felt sick for a while trying to speak truth to the same community in Portland that wasn't really receptive to that truth outside of their left-right paradigm, Obama worship paradigm. And that would feel the other kind of side of the thought form angry that I'm not getting behind the Trump Kool-Aid. I've actually now had various versions of dealing with the blowback by being an actual individual and just feeling that seething energy from others, telepathically almost, the confusion. Why isn't he like us? Is he one of them? Is he just that constant stream? Can't argue with that. Okay. The rapport, you have to minimize rapport with those forces that want to distract you from your life path, because they will keep coming in new forms. They will jump from human to human to human. You might see like literally a stream of humans speaking a similar level of disinformation while there's another group of humans that get it. And so if you ever decide to experiment with truth speaking and not just looking for the truth as an individual or trying to understand why you're targeted as an individual or that perspective, when someone actually puts out information and truth, there's interesting reactions that the universe can show us. This always becomes relevant in my understanding of the psychoses that others are experiencing because of all the hundreds of emails that have come in that have described different various levels of case study infections. But common TI attributes of seeking to gravitate and latch on to somebody online to hear their story and just be that thing or person. So ultimately, that's the number one thing that needs to be reeled in. Looking to freelance individuals to emo dump into onto the web. And this includes comment sections and trying to get info and advice from other people in comment sections or in these types of lower worlds. Okay, it's more or less how does the information get taken in, written down, and then applied in one's life. So if someone clearly describes how to ground, how to clear out the head, how to strengthen the auric field, and then other factors that deal with celestial influences, they can take that data in the same way that astrologers kind of create these charts based on what planet is doing what planet. They can understand the basics of how magnetic influences affect human consciousness and how the supernatural at times can almost dovetail when we have certain events and play up certain emotions. So if you go out and you learn how to ground and clear out your own energy, put up a shield when you need to. There's variance between putting up a shield to going clear to not reacting. So I'm not recommending psi warfare. There are forms of that. There are forms of psi warfare. And there are probably many cases in which certain measures need to be taken, but certain principles need to be upheld. There's another thing, don't throw stones if you live in a glass house. There's a lot of people that do that. This is not exactly a very moral society. And it doesn't even become a moral society even if you vote in somebody that you like, just because you think daddy's home and daddy's returning. That's just crazy in and of itself. So there's like a whole legacy and corruption and conspiracy and assassinations and all of that, COINTELPRO, that has led to where we are right now. Right now. So a lot of people are trying to like flee reality through technological obsessions and parallel realities and parallel truths. Number one thing you might want to do then is disconnect all that. How many people have gone off grid for long periods of time without bedding down next to smart grids and smart meters? How about quitting Facebook? How about watching no YouTube for several weeks? How about pure reading and writing? How many go to those desperate measures when the targeting reaches an all-time high pitch? I think that breaking out of urban living all the time is number one, because now you're about to be surrounded by the 5G. So Alex Ansari's meditation suggestions, something to that effect, run it through YouTube. You'll find a video. The idea isn't per se to get inside someone else's head, although I've done that. I would hear Leon in his guided meditations that I listen to, where I learn certain techniques, talk about now be in your own head now as you visualize your shield 2 feet around your body and underneath electric blue shield of protection. Bring your energy back in your body. Don't project into someone else's head. But there's an ability that we tend to have to do that and to project our energy and consciousness. It's the basics that remote viewing is based on. Well, no one gave us a manual how to deal with that energies when we start accessing YouTube. YouTube personalities, information on YouTube, even entities and thought forms that go in and out of screens. You see, people aren't living in a world where they were prepared for the energies, the psychic thought forms that are shooting at you invisibly on the internet. I may be one of the few humans you've ever heard discuss this issue. So maybe that's why you're here. And maybe that's the only truth you need to hear, is that you are living in a day and age that your ancestors did not live in. You're surrounded by technology that can influence thought. And right now, we're seeing levels of racial division some of you never saw before. In fact, some of you don't even believe that it even exists because you've never seen it before. So you don't know what other people are going through. Certain levels of isolations, certain levels of dehumanizing realities. I can assure you they exist. I can assure you, some of you may be thinking you've understood the conspiracy and how dark it gets, while assuming, right, that some things are roses and flowers without seeing the conspiracy in plain sight in our communities, in our societies, in our families. Not so much in the government, but in the very way in which people are treating each other. Literally, folks, and I know a lot of you are way older than I that are watching these videos. It's just like Portland, where my audience was like primarily senior citizens, although some of you are millennials that are also finding. There's a reason also people find me, I think, when they're close to the other side. Many people are no longer on the planet that have been on my program and have viewed my program for years. Would have been some of the core themes that I've talked about. What we do here in this world matters. There's a brainwashing campaign to tell us it doesn't matter. There are people out there that may know about TI, but they may not know about the term psychic self-defense or spiritual protection. So if they think that it's all cybernetic, if they think that it's all microchips floating out of the air and going into our body, then the actual targeting of their actual aura, they could just completely overlook that as they reach for another cigarette, as they go to another website, whether it be rents, as they're led into another disinformation black hole. their level of the targeting gets worse by the year until some of them, if they're super suggestible, some of them could be prepped for something later. There could be something like a Manchurian candidate where they almost send out a beacon or a signal, and a certain amount of the population starts behaving in a certain way. And they could be doing beta tests. Maybe turn up the anxiety here in this area, create a little bit of anxiety. Maybe turn up the juice over here, create a little bit of anger, see if you can get the people rioting. Now throw some chemtrails. Oh yeah. Just like that guy, the late Prince, that was discussing that very thing. But it's more than just chemtrails. It's how they manipulate certain frequencies when there are solar flares. And it's the supernatural overlay that runs parallel to our world. When there's certain events and energies colliding, doorways open up. Okay? And those doorways that open up can also manifest here on the internet, not just outside under the sun. That which gives us life, by the way, also gives life and power to those forces that see us as their prey, that see us from wherever they are as little points of energy to feed on, especially when they have us in concentrated places with an artificial electric grid that infects our natural power grid around our bodies. So it's something that's more consumable for their harvesting. Again, if you think you're a TI, have you spent hours meditating? Have you left Facebook? Have you left YouTube for weeks on end? Have you left a dense population center? Have you involved yourself in a spiritual practice? Have you invoked the true Almighty? Have you cleared out any false deities or arc spirits that may not be of the light as you go about your mission? So I think that there's literally a whole society that was brainwashed by the disinformation within the New Age, almost on purpose, to open up doorways that would lead so many astray. And because of all the other programming, and a lot of it's subtle, right? A lot of it's real subtle. But because a lot of the programming has had some time to sit in, the truth is not easily recognizable to a lot of people that are out there. Okay, so there's like literally a whole internet wave of videos where people talk about their wounds, their emotional wounds, their targeting. And out of just making it about the self or the self-ish reaction instead of what's happening to the globe and having compassion, somehow that seems to compound the symptoms and close down the heart even more through the personification of it, especially when it's psychosis. And they're not picking up on the spiritual attack of mankind. They literally think the neighbor's getting a check, or that person talked into their watch down the street. You know how many people that I've encountered, people that I knew, I'm closing here. Maybe you're getting an idea why I needed to leave Portland, in a place where I was spreading my truth for a while. It brought me on a radar. There would be people coming around that were like in the inner circle that had their own obsessions on gang stalking or other things, but nobody got into the archons or the unseen realms. But like, hey, Alex, I got to, oh, look at that. And I remember Laura, I remember hanging out with Laura, and I remember seeing Laura in 2005 or 6, tall blonde girl with blue eyes, and she had also, unfortunately, this archetype of the super paranoid, that guy spying on us, Alex. And it was like a hardcore level of paranoia that in no way had the truth embedded within it. And I would come across various forms of the psychosis programming in others, and I would begin to see certain programs or patterns, especially within recent years. And there is a certain amount of the population that does seem targeted, not so much in the way the fake news and the alternative media presents it, the outsiders crawling over the wall, even if there is someone in real time that was hired to crawl over a wall. Just if someone in real time is literally crawling over a wall. That meme is ultimately used to hijack the spiritual intuition and gnosis by turning the heart dark. So by them altering the conspiracy truth, they've literally altered intelligence and consciousness and made many people wicked. So there's actually many people out there that are TIs that are actually being targeted for bad stuff to happen to them. to be turned to the dark side, Luke. And that's what's so sad about their targeting. It's not just about them hearing things and seeing things. It's about where they're planning to take them. And it's not just like a big ditch where they just, It's more like changing people from the inside out so the Archons give us their mind. Instead of just a straight alien invasion, they're taking us over from within. So that's first step one. Step one, not that this is an AA meeting, but the first step is realizing what's going on. Now, once the heart lifts from that, well, let's address the racial hatred and anger and how that darkens the heart and the externalization of the darkness. Oh, the darker people. No. The darkness, the dark grid, the dark realms. Not color of skin. Let's look at things as they are. Okay, and let's look at the people as equal for just a minute. Suspend disbelief in your mind and see reality as it is. Become colorblind in this spiritual experiment. See, they don't care necessarily down here in all cases, although some may, who's on top of what, as long as someone's suffering. And there's certain rules of thumb that they've built into the collective where some people will suffer more than others. So the reason why you have certain racist thought forms that are promoted is not to benefit white people or any group, or even black people in South Africa when they kill white people or anything. It's to feed those darker forces that are literally feeding on that pain of that person that's literally dripping with blood, saying, God help me, no, please stop, please stop, no, oh God, God. You see? Whereas someone literally sees a member of their family right before their very eyes. There are actual reasons why humans are possessed to do evil things to others, and today, possessed to use technology to rationalize it. Oh, look, they're all invading Europe as a group. See, this is the ultimate reason why in the beginning we should... And people make that case. And it's like you have the best example of the TI on a collective level. There should no longer be any questions about the program on a collective level. It's shown its teeth. How do you save your soul from hatred? How do you save your thoughts from the influence of others out there in the media? These are the things the true seeker of knowledge asks when they're looking for the most basic breakdowns of how to protect yourself from the effects of the targeted individual program.